and Sean Terry's mastermind. So
we're going live on YouTube, by the way. Lots of gold nuggets being dropped. This is a podcast, but sometimes we get excited and we just want to broadcast some stuff. So boom. Also, by the way, this is, is that you?
I think that's on your end.
Nope, it is. Okay, I fixed it. We're good. So yeah, so you guys scaled. One thing that I've learned from listening to you already is that you love to go in hard. You like to go in. You're not afraid to invest in marketing. You don't look at marketing like an expense. You see it the same way I do. You look at it like an investment. Your very first marketing campaign was how many postcards and how long ago?
500, and that was in 2015.
Love it. So mine was in 2015 as well. And I spent $1,300 on a credit card towards postcards. So I did a little more than you did. However, I was like 62 grand in credit card debt. And I hired a coach and did the postcard. So I went from 62 grand to 67 grand. Because the way I looked at it was, I'm already 60,000 in debt. What's an extra couple grand, 5, 6 grand, right? So boom, we both did that. We saw the difference between making an investment in the marketing and it being an expense. Now, before we proceed, Scott, I do want to say one thing because I don't want to mislead people. I love transparency. The first month or two, it's going to feel like an expense, and it might be. All right. Period. You may spend money and not see a return. That's an expense. An investment, spending money and seeing a return. The reason I say month 1 or month 2, hopefully not month 3, but it's possible, is because you should be doing deals by then. Don't expect to send a postcard campaign out, guys. And Scott, you know this, right? And expect to get 3 deals closed by next Tuesday. It's not going to happen, but you're going to get leads. You're going to get phone calls. You're going to start setting appointments and stuff's going to happen. It's going to fall in your lap. The harder you work, the luckier you get. We've all heard this. So moving forward, Scott, 5 years ago, 500 postcards. How many are you guys sending now?
We're sending almost 200,000 a month now.
200,000 a month. Now, Scott's in multiple markets. So that's going to increase his spend. Obviously, he's doing marketing in 2 places. Also, the fact that you're in Southern California, I don't know that market at all. It's probably the most foreign market to me. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. So, you know, a lot of the markets in my vicinity, you're talking, you know, 300, 400, 500 miles in every direction are pretty similar, right? Southern California is a whole different beast. I'd imagine the cost per lead is going to be higher there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, cost per lead here is significantly higher. And I mean, it's a very competitive state, right? I mean, you look at like Arizona, it's like our guru capital of the world for real estate. They're all there. Southern California, I mean, there's very large spreads here when it comes to wholesale deals, but it does take a lot of effort to get that deal. And I know a lot of people that have said there's no deals here. I'm going virtual. I'm going to St. Louis. I'm going somewhere else. And a lot of people do that. But the reason we like Southern California is because we cracked it, right? I mean, we stayed consistent with what we were doing and we pushed forward to actually build a business here. But I like how you're being real with everyone right now. So I want to make sure we do the exact same thing.
Drop it. What's up?
You're talking to people and you're saying, hey, you may not see money for a couple months. That right there is one of the first times I've heard anyone say that. And that is so true because people are afraid to say it. When people are doing podcasts,
I'm not.
A lot of people say it.
Yeah, it may be an expense. Now, hopefully it's not, Scott. Hopefully you can spend some money and within 1 month you can get a deal. But don't be discouraged if you don't. Here's why. This is the 3rd podcast I've done today. I got 2 more set, right? I try to bulk these. The reason I even say that is the first 2 were kind of they were really in line with this one. The first one was running appointments with my partner, Mike. The second one was the consistency and the follow-up. But you have to be transparent with your students and just all the listeners and viewers right now, right? The thing about wholesaling and real estate investing as in general is, you know, it does take some time. So my partner and I, Mike and I, we've done over 500 wholesale transactions in the last 5 years. And we love teaching people how to do these transactions. The average transaction for Mike and I in our business, right, over the last 5 years, if you take all of the data, I've been full-time at this 5 years, been doing it real estate for 15, right? But if you take the data from the last 5 years, the average deal that we close takes 4 to 6 months. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't get a call today, or Scott, can't get a call today, run an appointment that afternoon or the next day, get an appointment the same, or get a contract the same time as the appointment or the next day, and have a buyer lined up that day or the next day, right? That's possible. It happens all the time. But in the beginning, it's not necessarily going to happen often because you don't have enough leads coming in. So you really need to nurture those leads. You need to be following up with those leads. And you have to understand that, people, you did a really good job earlier, Scott, of saying that, people's motivation changes very rapidly, right? Yes. And getting that postcard to them on the day that they are motivated is very important. That's why if you send it once and you don't get a ton of calls, doesn't mean that you had a bad mailer or even a bad list. It just means that for whatever reason, the motivation in the marketplace wasn't there the day those hit. So mail them again in a week or 2 or 3 or whatever that might be. Same thing with your follow-ups. If you are spending money on marketing, right, and you are going out and you are setting appointments and you aren't able to get the contract, it just drives me crazy when people get this far in the business. They spend money on marketing or they generate those leads somehow, right? Time or money, one or the other. And they get out on the appointment and they don't make an offer, or they don't make an offer the next day or a week later or whatever, right? They've spent so much time and effort. So following up with these people, is as important. I love it. Absolutely love that.
They're afraid to make the offer. I mean,
they're afraid to make the offer.
That's the thing, is it comes down to confidence, right? So you've got one thing you touched on is consistency. So you need to be very consistent in every single thing in the business, right? So if you're sending out postcards, don't send out 500 postcards one time and say, well, didn't get the response I wanted, throw that list away, pull another list. I think there's the kind of idea in this business that you have to have every tool before you start now.
Oh man, I hate that.
You have to subscribe to every single thing out there. And pretty soon you've made no money. You spent $5,000 on postcards. Now you have a texting software. You've got a software to look up stuff. You've got Podio you pay for because you wanted the bells and whistles. You got all this stuff, and your subscriptions add up to $1,500 a month, and you haven't made anything. And that is such a misconception out there, right? Like, there's Drive for Dollars programs. Deal Machine is awesome. I use it. But for somebody on day one, grab a pen, grab a notepad. Make some money. And that's why I was able to grow my business so fast. I didn't go and invest in every single little thing that somebody told me to do, right? I stayed my course. And if you listen to people talk out there, right, they'll say, hey, our new best thing is text messaging. But someone's making all this money on direct mail right now. And someone says, go to text messaging. They go.
Yeah. And they drop all the mail and all those efforts. And oftentimes you have to have 6, 7, 8, 10 touches, right? Yes. So if you've mailed them 5 times, you're only 2 touches away from a deal with certain people, but they do. Shiny objects are a terrible thing in this business. Yeah. I just had a new student sign up 2 days ago, and he said, man, I've done some mail, done some bandit signs, done some door knocking. I do lots of cold calling. He's like, I'm just struggling to get a deal. Yeah. And I was like, let's talk about the consistency. How often are you doing these things? How much time are you spending? And he's flip-flopping. He's doing exactly that. And I'm not trying to call anybody out, but if you are that person that sees those shiny objects, stop. Because here is the thing. They all work. That's the secret that people are looking for. They're always looking for that. Well, maybe this is better than that. Maybe this, sometimes something might be better, right? That goes without saying. But direct mail works. Cold calling works. Cold texting works. Door knocking, radio advertisement, bandit signs, networking, all of these things work, and they get deals for Scott. They get deals for me. They work. So be consistent in those things. I love it. That is a huge gold nugget, Scott. Thank you for sharing. And I'm reiterating here the value, right? There's nothing wrong with doing 5, 6, 7 types of marketing. It sounds like Scott is. I know I am, right? I'm doing all these things, but I'm not half-assing them, and I'm not going in and out. I'm doing them all. I'm doing them consistently. So if you are new, the lesson here, right, is find one thing that you like doing, you enjoy when it comes to marketing. Maybe that's driving around and doing bandit signs. Maybe it's door knocking. Maybe you like the phones and you want a cold call. Or maybe you're lazy like me and you want to pay the radio station and my direct mail company to deliver my message to my customer so they call me. It doesn't matter what you choose. They all work. So I think what Scott is trying to say here, and I went off on a crazy tangent. I can talk for days. Sorry, Scott. I think the message that Scott is trying to teach you guys is, on top of the fact that they all work, is don't follow that shiny object. If you want to do mail, do it, get good at it, automate it, or get somebody on your team that can take over. Then that is win. At that point is win. Then you should try to go do the next thing, which might be bandit signs or cold calling, and get good at that. And it doesn't have to necessarily mean that you're a pro at it, but don't do it for a week or two, right? Get a system in place. I love it. So Scott, I don't want to take up a whole bunch of your time today. Again, I'm very grateful to have you, and it's good to connect with you as well, man. Like I said, we didn't really know each other all that well, but I see you out there. You're a beast in the business, so I had to have you on the show. Thanks for coming. What are you doing in your business today? Is it just direct mail, or are you doing other things too for marketing?
So for us, we do direct mail, cold calling, text messaging. So those are the three sources.
The exact same things plus radio, but that's about it. Yep.
Radio is something we never really dabbled in. I think people think they have to do everything at once too.
Well, driving for dollars too, we both mentioned that, but that's only half of it sometimes. That's just generating the list. Whereas we can generate a list, or we can go buy a list. From there, we're still going to mail them, cold call them, cold text them, right? Just depends on the data that we get from the list, but the list is generated in that way. Bandit signs too, Scott, I do a little bit of that, but that is, we do it in waves. Now, I know I just said to everybody, be consistent. That's fine. But if you do big waves, that's a whole other beast. So instead of us buying 100 or 150 a week, we'll go buy 3,000 and just plaster the city with them. And then we'll wait 2-3 months, and then we'll do that again. But again, we are consistent with the wave. So I love that, man. I love it. So you're doing a lot of mail. You're doing cold calling, cold texting, creating your own lists, buying lists. You're in 2 markets. Tell me a little bit about your team. What's that look like?
Yeah. So our team right now, we have 12 people on our team. The majority of our team is always going to be sales. So we have inside sales that does all of our texting and warms up that lead for the pass off. And then our actual outside sales, or acquisitions, as we call it, those are the guys that go in for the close. So they don't waste their time on cold leads. They're focused on medium and high probability. Cold stays with the inside sales team for follow-up. They stay with our leads team as well. So we have 3 people on our leads team that are answering our inbound calls. We're getting, well, let's go pre-COVID, we were getting about 450 calls in a week right in there. So we have 3 VAs that answer all of our inbound calls, that funnel it through our system and schedule appointments for our acquisitions team. Now those calls have now
90
dropped.
calls a day. You guys are getting a ton of calls.
A lot. The majority are going to be your Monday through Friday. It tapers off on the weekends. But that slowed down pretty significantly as, shutdowns and things occurred. So we're dealing with the COVID situation just like everybody else is right now. And we have seen a slowdown in business, but we just have to shift how we're doing things. So with our acquisitions team, they're doing typically over the phone now, not going out to talk to people. My dispositions team, they are still dealing with buyers, but they're having to make 5 times the calls to get a buyer on. In the past, we sent out a list and it's like, boom, we got a buyer. But now we're having to do 5 times the calls on every property because lenders are more strict. Buyers are buying with only bigger spreads. They're looking for those home runs because they don't know what the market's going to do. So we've had to adjust our business model for that quite a bit. Well, then our biggest challenge is we're an in-office team, but everyone's at home right now. So it makes it a little more difficult for us to have our camaraderie as a team, just because people are over Zoom calls and things like that right now. But if we want to talk about as a business, what we're doing right now, I mean, we are consistent in every single thing we do. We have a killer follow-up sequence to make sure that no seller gets left behind. So they're getting follow-up from our actual salespeople, but then if we don't close the deal, it goes back to my leads team for manual and auto follow-up as well. So my leads team is constantly following up with people.
Are you all on Podio, or do you have another system as well?
We use Podio, but we use the Investor area of Podio. So it's the upgraded Podio. And we're currently
Podio.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're switching over to their new system that takes us away from Podio completely. That transition should actually happen probably in the next like 2 to 3 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, so, I think a lot of people are already have taken advantage of that already. I know those guys pretty well. Rob and Gary. And
very good.
Yeah, they're in a mastermind that I'm in. They have a phenomenal software. So if there's anybody listening that's interested in getting a really good software, Investor PO is a great place. I use Podio and I use REI Black Book. And we're shifting out of Podio to 100% REI Black Book just because less is more. It's a comparable thing to Investor PO. Both are great. Love that. Very cool.
Yeah, the system, whatever system you use, has got to right fit your business, right? So just because you use a different one than me, mine works for me. I don't want to switch because it's a real pain to switch systems too.
It can be a pain, right? You know, one thing I tell a lot of students too is the CRM you choose, you know, doesn't really matter that much. Yes, it's going to have, some are going to have more bells and whistles than others. You know, how simple do you want it? How complex do you want it? Are you wanting something that's more focused on acquisition than disposition? I mean, there's a lot of options out there, but at the end of the day, a CRM does two things really, really well. It may have 100 bells and whistles. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about what a CRM really does. And I break it down into basically two categories. One is notes and the other is tasks. That is it. You can put all the data in. That's notes, right? Pictures, even comments, conversations, data from, you know, your analysis or your due diligence of the property. That's all in there. It may look a certain way or be pretty or not or whatever. Either way, it's notes. It's stuff going in that you are putting in. And then last but not least is the task. When do I need to follow up next? Or in my case, and probably it sounds like yours too, when does the VA on my team or the acquisition manager on my team get assigned to follow up with that person again? And again, you can have all these other things that help make that smoother, simpler, faster, easier. But at the end of the day, if you take out all the bells and whistles, that's what the CRMs all have in common. The ability to take notes and the ability to remind you to follow up. So I love that. So you talked about your marketing. You're doing a ton of it. You're spending $50,000+ a month on marketing, but you see it as an investment. So do I, because it's bringing you a positive ROI, a return on that investment. You have a team, you're virtual. You guys have Investor PO as a software. What else, Scott? What am I missing?
So, I mean, if we want to talk about what we do very well, right? So we're in a very, when it comes to talking with the seller, and I've heard so many people talking with sellers, and let's be honest, they're doing it wrong, right? Everyone's got their own way. So when you talk sales, because that's really what it is, everyone has got their own approach, which you need, right? But everyone is so quick to go in for this kill, right? To go in and try to get that signature. They're at the house 10 minutes and that's their appointment and they're gone, right? We'll spend an hour, hour and a half at a house and we won't even talk about the deal until the last 5 minutes. So there's something called rapport building, right? That is so important because what you're doing is you're knocking on that door or you're making that phone call and you're immediately just talking. You're carrying on a conversation. Hey, how are you today? Great, great. If you're going into the house, you're walking around, you're having the seller show you around the house. A lot of people say, oh, Mr. Seller, I'm just going to walk around real quick if you don't mind and take a look. And you leave the seller sitting in their living room.
Not me.
You're missing that opportunity to walk that house with that seller. I don't care about the offer. Let's be honest. When we go into that house, we know what we're going to offer. Now that might adjust by $5,000 based on the house, but you've done your due diligence. You know what the comps are. So
you guys have a credibility packet that you bring, I would imagine, right?
Anymore. We actually stopped.
Okay, why? Let's talk about that. So we have one. I'm lazy. I don't use it every day, obviously. The main things that are in there that I think are important that we teach our students, though, is, always have a contract on you, always have an option agreement as well. A lot of investors don't even know what that is, but if it's not a great deal, why not try to help them, but also not be obligated to buy? It gives you the ability to buy if needed. It's not something that we use every day, but there are those people that a listing doesn't make sense. They can't afford our offer, but there's still something there that we can maybe help them with. So, purchase and sale, option agreement, proof of funds, I think can be very helpful. But probably the most important thing, and again, I don't use it every appointment, but I should, is what we have in, it's called a seller's net sheet. And you've probably seen these before. It's not multiple offers. Don't be confused. A lot of people say, oh, we go out and we make 3 or 4 offers on every property with different terms. Well, we do that too. But the seller's net sheet isn't about those other offers. Instead, it's about making yours look best, right? And that may not even mean that it's the highest, right? Scott, you know this. The highest offer isn't the best. What is best is how to solve the problem for the seller, which may be time, not money, right? So what we do is we say, hey, if the house, and we basically do this, Scott, and I didn't mean to interrupt you because I want to hear your approach too, but I love just throwing value out whenever I see the opportunity. And one of the things that we do is we do our MAO formula. You're familiar, right? MAO equals ARV times roughly 70% minus repairs. And then if you're wholesaling, minus your wholesale fee. Well, that formula is simple for an investor, but it's complicated when you show it to a seller, an owner, because they see a 30% discount. So instead, we show them what all of those things might be, but we also show them that if they were to do their own repairs and fix it up, what that number would look like, but more importantly, not what that number would look like, how long it would take them. Right. Yeah. So they may make 10 grand more doing a good rehab, but hiring an agent, and that may take them 5 to 10 months. They may make the same amount of money by doing a low grade, rehab. Again, hire an agent. It's going to be time consuming. You're going to have seller concessions. You're going to have holding costs. You're going to have agent commissions. You're going to have cost of repairs. You're going to have holding taxes, insurance, boom, boom, boom. You get it. Or they can take our offer, which may not even be the best, meaning it's not the highest, right? But it is the best in certain scenarios because it closes in 10 days, right? So that's something that we definitely bring along in our credibility packet. Again, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're probably like, who is this guy interviewing me? He won't shut up. I get it. But I want to hear why you guys don't have one or have gone away from it, because I'm sure you got a great reason.
I mean, we have a great credibility packet. We have hundreds of them printed, but we don't use it. And part of the reason we stopped using it, the only thing we bring to the appointment is our seller contract. And we used to go with like a little iPad presentation. Then we went to the credibility packet. The reason we went away from it is it takes the seller's focus off of, and see, that's perfect. It takes the seller's focus off of us, and it takes the seller's focus off of our conversation with them. So if you give the seller something to look at, or you're walking them through it, they feel like they're just another person you're going to talk to, and you're going to leave after this and go to somebody else and do that exact same presentation.
Yeah, so I love that. I think that's very, very important.
We took away the feeling of a repetitive, practiced conversation, right? We basically made it so that seller sees it. We're literally here for them. We're here to learn about them. We'll slip in the things about our company we need to. And if the seller really needs something, we'll make sure we get them that information. But bottom line, our job is to go to that house and build such a good rapport with that seller that they take our offer.
And they don't want to go look at other offers. They just want that one.
I mean, a lot of times they're going to talk to other people, and most of the time we're not the highest, and they will still go with us because of that.
Yeah.
We actually treat
Guys,
them.
Do you hear what he just said? He said most of the time we are not the highest, and they will still go with us. I love it. I experienced that as well, Scott. Make a friend. That's really all that you want to do on the appointment, other than get the agreement signed. I mean, that's the goal, right? But the plan should be make a friend. I mean, oftentimes, and I think you can agree, Scott, we've been doing this about the same amount of time. The problem oftentimes isn't the house itself. That's just what helps solve it. The underlying problem usually is death, divorce, disease, relocation, so on and so forth. The house has nothing to do with it. It's just something in the way, right?
Yeah.
So by buying the house, we can solve the underlying problem. One thing that you had mentioned was that you are there to, make a friend, build the rapport, and not distract them. And we do this as well, but I think one of the approaches that you guys use is you're taking it to the next level, but it's this approach. It's Mr. or Mrs. Seller. It's not me versus you. Instead, it's me and you versus the marketplace. So let's look at the marketplace. Let's work our numbers backwards. Now, when you do it that way and you have that approach, and it's really that mindset, Scott, what happens is that low offer that may have gotten you kicked out 10 minutes prior now makes sense and is fair, because it's not like, oh, I'm not giving you 50 grand or 100 grand for this property, give you 60. Well, that's not the best approach. Instead, it's like, all right, Mr. or Mrs., we both agree that fixed up, it could be worth 120, right? But in order to get there, it's going to need 25 worth of work, right? We both know that. And I'm going to have these other costs. And guess what? When I go to sell it, I'm going to have to pay the agent just like you would. And the buyer, they're going to have an agent and an inspector, and then they're going to come in, they're going to want money or repairs. Same as you with, right? So you change the dynamic from me versus you. Here's my offer. Do you want to take it to me and you versus the market, right? What can we do together to make this number fair for both sides, but also justify it to where it's not a low offer, it's a fair offer. Same offer, just different way of looking at it. So, Scott, you are filled with nuggets, my man.
We'll do the analysis you're talking about too, where we do the comparison with a realtor, but we don't bring like a sheet for it. What we do is we act like it's something we've never done. We flip our entire contract over, and on the contract, we just chicken scratch it, right?
Love it.
It looks like we've never done it. Like, oh, we're not prepared for this because we really never need to do this. And the back of our contracts will have writing on them all the time, because it doesn't have anything to do with the contract itself. But if we come with a preset sheet of paper, then again, it looks like something we already planned on happening. If we're just like, oh man, I don't have a piece of paper. Oh, you know what? Here, pull this contract out, flip it over. Now you've got the contract into the conversation, right? You've gotten a contract to the table without saying, oh, let me pull out this contract. You've gotten it there. It's flipped over. They just don't know it's the contract yet. So now you're scratching all over the back of it. You're flipping it around so they can see it. You learn how to, write upside down on some of these things. Right upside down, just create some humor. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me flip this back around. Okay. And then you're going through and talking to them about it. And you say, going with us is pretty easy. Flip it over. This is all we need to do.
This is it. Keep it simple. Love it. Scott, a couple more quick questions for you. How is it different operating the business virtually in Dallas versus the other business of the local, right? I mean, it's the same business, but it's very different. So how are you guys running that virtually?
So we don't do 100% virtual there. I actually took one of my top sales guys and said, hey, do you want an opportunity? And I put him on a plane. I put his stuff on a truck, and we sent.
I love it.
So we said, hey, this is a new opportunity for you to literally run. This is our headquarters here, for you to run our branch, right? For you to almost run this franchise for us. So we put him out there. And the reason
he went to he was empowered to then go find the boots on the ground to run those appointments and the other people.
He is the boots on the ground.
Okay, so he is that guy then. Got it. Okay. So he's the one taking pictures, running the appointments, looking at the repairs. And then you have a team elsewhere, virtual probably, or maybe in Southern Cal, that's helping assist on all other fronts. I love it.
I mean, our headquarters or home office that you want to call it will always be here. And then all of our leads team, they answer all the calls for him. They book the appointments. You wouldn't know that he's not in the office in most cases. But the reason I decided to send someone there is because historically, if we go in person to an appointment, we're going to get it in California about $25,000 less than we would have got it over the phone. Because you're face to face, there's just a different aspect to that. And in Texas, we're getting it about $10,000 to $12,000 less by being there versus
I agree with that mindset. So I don't do much virtual. I do a little, right? Most of it's in St. Louis where I live. It's where I invest. We have about 65 rental properties. Always have anywhere from 5 to 10 flips going. And then we do a lot of wholesaling as well, anywhere from 6 to 10 deals in a month. And when we go, we always have a better, lower, more valuable price for us than if we're doing it virtual. So I think that's phenomenal. Scott, thanks again for coming on the show. I want to keep the episodes short, so I don't want to go too long here, but I definitely want to highlight all things Scott Oots. Scott, where can people find you online, social media, but also you have a course, I believe?
Yeah, so what we have a sales training course. So we looked at the market. So me and Mike, my COO, he's very good at sales. And what we did is we came together and said, what are some of the things that just aren't taught enough, right? People can learn how to send mail by watching YouTube videos. They can buy everyone's courses that are out there. But we wanted to do something different. So we said, what can we do different than a product that's offered? So we started what's called the REI Masters. And it is an in-person sales training. So you can go to a sales training with 200 people in it. You can sit and watch that PowerPoint presentation. For us, it's different. You're looking at 30 people maximum in the room. And we're not sitting there having you watch a PowerPoint. We're actually calling your leads. You're calling your leads.
Oh, I love that. Hands-on.
Right? You're going to call your lead and we're going to make you mute the phone. So we tell you a different approach. And our goal help you lock up deals in the room. And you're going to spend the whole time role playing, practicing, learning, objection fighting. We're going to get you through all of this over 2 days. Our goal is to get you in the room, literally lock the doors from the outside and say, lunch is being brought in. No one's leaving. We are going to sit in here and we are going to learn how to do sales properly, how to build rapport. So we built that and we've got the thing ready to go. And then COVID hit.
No.
Our first event was supposed to be in Dallas 2 weeks ago. But unfortunately, we didn't go there because of this. We talked about switching it online, but the whole point in what we're doing is really just having this in-person
intimacy. Right. So so you're going to have to you guys have a new date on the books yet or not yet?
Kind of waiting until things start opening up and then we'll real quick. But if they go to thereimasters.com, you can check it out on there. We can probably work out a promo code for you to give them a discount or something if they want to sign up with it.
Sweet. That would be great. Guys, thereimasters.com. Go check it out. Scott's the real deal. I have been really pushing to get, investors on the podcast that are doing big things. Scott fit that perfectly. He's doing huge things. So if you guys want to learn more about his program on sales, I think it's phenomenal that they are, metaphorically locking themselves in a room and they're forcing people to get on the phone, set appointments, probably make offers. I'm sure deals will be done at this event. It sounds like a perfect place for a deal to get done. And not a lot of people are really doing that hands-on approach. So I think it is phenomenal. Scott, how can somebody find you on social media?
You can look me up at the Scott Oots. Oots is OOTS. Facebook, Instagram, got a YouTube channel as well. So we've got some stuff going there. We just built my new studio here.
Like it.
So we're ready to get some stuff going. But come find me on there. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on YouTube. We're going to have some good content. All that content's free. People helped me get going when I was getting going, and I want to do what I can to try to give back and help people change the direction of their life. I love I didn't go anywhere. I hadn't been going anywhere. I was broke, but now I'm making money because of these free things that cost me nothing. And all I ask in return, help somebody else get started as well. And that's what I want to see happen. There's so much stuff out there. There's so much paid stuff out there, but there's a lot of free stuff out there too.
Speaking of free stuff, guys, head over to freewholesalecourse.com. That's my course. Also, brand new, freewholesaleblueprint.com. It's different than the course. This is the systems that I use in my business. We talked a little bit about it earlier. You may not need all of these in the beginning, But as you scale to a level that Scott or I is at, you're going to want some systems in there. I love it. Check Scott's course out, the REI Masters. Did I get that right?
That's it.
The REIMasters.com. Scott, give me some departing words for my audience. If you are new at real estate investing, what should you be focusing on, and what's the mindset you need to have?
So right now, the fact that so many people are locked down at home because of this whole COVID thing, right now, everyone should be watching some of those YouTube videos, making cold calls, because guess what? Your sellers are at home as well right now.
Yes, they are.
They're at home. They've been watching Netflix now for a month in a lot of cases, and they are bored, right? Granny wants to talk to you. So call and talk to her. She's been bored in her house, can't see her family, right? Start calling these people, especially elderly people. Don't go see them right now, but start calling them, because they're going to want to carry on a conversation with someone. Don't say, when this is over, I will do A, B, and C. Look at it and say, what can I do right now to start doing something? So when this is over, you're way ahead and you can go run appointments and make money. Don't wait. You got to take action. You got to take that first step to get something going. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting and looking back 3 years from now and saying, well, I'm going to start next week. Well, I'm going to start next week. If you want to change your life and you want to do something, do it.
Start now, do it. Guys, wow. This podcast episode has been phenomenal. Tons of gold nuggets. I want to personally thank Scott for coming on, sharing some of his time. Very, very valuable. Again, I'm very grateful for you, Scott. Thank you for giving me some of your time today. I know it's difficult with all the things that we're doing in our business. I want to drive some traffic to your event. So guys, if you want to learn how, it's not even learn, I want to change it. If you want to be forced into doing deals, you got to go check this out. The REIMasters.com. Couple of things I want to finish off this episode with, guys. You make your money when you buy, you get paid when you sell. We are in the marketing business. Don't forget it. Keep telling yourself that you can do this. It is not necessarily hard. This business is simple. You got to be persistent and you got to have consistency. Scott, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time.
It's been a lot of fun.
Signing off, guys. Signing off.